Automakers are facing challenges in selling electric vehicles. To address this, incentives have increased significantly, making some of the best deals available not through purchasing a car, but by leasing one. Leasing, essentially a long-term rental, allows you to avoid concerns about reselling later, with minimal worries about maintenance. Monthly payments are affordable, and a loophole enables you to receive a subsidy on an EV that wouldn't be eligible if purchased outright. While this seems beneficial for cash-strapped Americans and for EV adoption overall, the prices of used EVs have plummeted. Increasing sales volume through leases risks driving prices down even further.
There's just so much happening there that I don't think any of those automakers can even really predict a high level of accuracy, nor can the guidebooks predict what's this vehicle really going to be worth.
This trend could ultimately harm the EV segment and the companies that produce these vehicles in the long run. So why are EV lease prices so low? And what does this mean for automakers? Barclays analyst Dan Levy estimates that in May 2024, incentives for EVs, essentially discounts, range from 15% to 30% off the sticker price, significantly higher than the industry average of 5% to 6%. This puts immense pressure on already tight and often negative EV margins. Tesla, which controls about 50% of the US EV market, offered relatively low incentives on its Model 3, Model X, and Model S, but a 13% discount on its top-selling Model Y, although that promotion ended on June 1st. Incentives on EVs from legacy automakers were much higher, with mass-market EVs, non-luxury vehicles, being discounted by 25% off the original price. Notably, incentives on luxury EVs, such as General Motors' Cadillac LYRIQ, reached a surprisingly high value of $18,000, nearly a third off the sticker price.
Automakers are trying to push discounts because the EV demand is soft. You saw early on a lot of outright price cuts, a lot of this spurred by Tesla, but I think one of the observations is that the elasticity of demand is probably not what some were hoping for. And so they're resorting to other ways to discount, and leases are a key way.
In May 2024, leases accounted for only about 23% of overall retail new vehicle sales. However, they made up about 35% of total EV purchases and nearly 70% of EVs sold by dealerships.
I think it's kind of those kick the can down the road problems where we know there's going to be a problem. What are you going to do with it later? Hopefully certifying those vehicles, making them seem even more appealing is going to help, maybe bump up residuals a little bit or buy consumer confidence, or maybe they'll just be so cheap they're easy to move.
A lease typically lasts for a few years, often 3, though the duration can vary. Once your lease term ends, you return the car, though you may have the option to buy out the lease if you choose. Monthly payments are generally lower than those for a purchased vehicle. There are stipulations to leasing, such as limits on the number of miles you can drive, often set at 10,000 or 15,000 miles per year. These limits are usually negotiable at the time of signing, but exceeding your allowance can be costly, sometimes as much as 50 cents for each additional mile. You may also incur extra charges if the car sustains damage beyond normal wear and tear. However, if you can manage these conditions, you'll be driving a brand new vehicle in mint condition, less likely to give you problems, with most needed repairs likely covered by warranty.
For the typical consumer out there, no, leasing is probably not a good product. It's a very specific type of buyer that would be interested in leasing, but there is a contingent out there that it works perfect for. I don't know the exact numbers, but it's a large portion are salespeople, people making business calls and they write off their vehicle as part of their business expenses.
You also don't have to worry about selling the vehicle when you're ready to move on. Simply drive it and return it at the end of the lease term. It's that simple. This is especially advantageous for EVs, as swapping out your car every few years is ideal for someone who enjoys having the latest and greatest in technology. Additionally, the lower payments can allow you to drive a vehicle that would otherwise be more expensive to purchase. For instance, leasing is significantly more popular in the luxury segment than in the mainstream market. On average, EVs still sell for about $9,000 more than the overall industry average. While this may not perfectly reflect American attitudes, a survey of a few thousand consumers in France, the UK, and Germany who were considering an EV found that they were twice as likely to prefer leasing. Leasing reduces concerns about battery longevity or the car becoming obsolete as technology advances.
They're going to use that leasing because it is the natural way to get customers to try out this product that are just not going to be willing to slap down $40,000 or $50,000 for something. They just have no idea whether this is going to work for them or not.
Additionally, the Inflation Reduction Act restricts the $7,500 tax credit on new EV purchases to vehicles made in the U.S., along with meeting certain other criteria. However, leasing provides a workaround that allows buyers of foreign-made EVs to still benefit from this credit. As of June 24, 2024, prices for EV leases have been exceptionally low. For example, Hyundai advertised a lease deal for its Ioniq 5, which starts at $40,000 if purchased, for $242 per month for 36 months, with about $3,500 due at signing and a 10,000-mile annual limit. This monthly payment is less than half the average lease payment for all cars in the U.S. as of May 2024. Similarly, the Chevrolet Blazer EV, which has a starting sticker price of about $50,000, can be leased for $369 per month for 24 months, with a $1,679 upfront payment and a total 20,000-mile limit. Polestar, a luxury performance vehicle brand, also offers a lease for $299 per month. In general, leases are a mixed bag for automakers.
You're better off having a customer buy and hold the vehicle because with extended length of time, they're going to have more, they run past the warranty, let's say, right? So you're going to have repairs, reconditioning, things like that.
On the other hand, leasing is an effective way to move inventory, especially when dealer lots are full. This is particularly useful as it currently takes dealers longer to sell any type of car, with EVs taking significantly more days to sell compared to internal combustion vehicles and hybrids. Leasing also serves as a powerful tool to build customer loyalty, with loyalty rates for leasing far higher than for purchases. The reason is simple. When you return your leased car to the dealership, it gives the dealer an immediate opportunity to place you in another vehicle. The dealer then sells the returned car in the used market. However, this is where challenges arise. In May 2024, used EV prices fell by 16% year over year compared to a 12% decline for internal combustion vehicles during the same period. Leased EVs were expected to retain about 55% of their value, while internal combustion vehicles were projected to hold closer to 62%. Barclays analyst Dan Levy noted in his report that even these current residual rates, what vehicles are expected to be worth at the end of the lease term, might be optimistic. The availability of next-generation EVs in just a few years could further impact these values.
Flood the market with a bunch of leases, what happens? You end up with poor residual values. Kind of creates this vicious cycle. You're going to kill your residuals. It's very hard to dig yourself out of that hole. It's hard to convince the consumer then to even buy one of your cars and have it long term and drive it till the wheels fall off and build loyalty and build a good impression because you think, these cars are worthless in a couple of years.
Automakers using aggressively attractive leasing terms on EVs now could be deferring losses into the future. When those EVs come back to dealerships and have to be sold in a used market where prices are already dropping,
they're going to only get worse because you have so many more that will be flooding the market. I think where it's that's one out of it's 2/3 or so, a little over 2/3 of current EVs being sold at dealerships. Those things, they're going to find their way back into the market in 2 or 3 years. And that is not going to do nothing but hurt. It's great for adoption purposes. It's great for consumers on the used end. I love that, right? A bunch of cheap used EVs running around.
It's possible it will hurt pure play EV companies like Tesla more than legacy automakers.
For companies like GM or Ford, even if they are increasing discounts on the EVs, the key thing to remember is that they are still at their core ICE vehicle manufacturers. And so that, yes, even if the EV demand is weak, there is a strong ICE profit stream to support the numbers.
For the Western OEMs and specifically in North America, EVs are still, quite loss-making. For Ford and GM, for instance, Ford is going to lose on their EV unit this year $5 to $5.5 billion. Just for context, the total business as a whole is $10 to $12 billion of profit this year. What that means is that X EVs, this is $16 billion of profit, and EVs are a $5 billion plus drag. GM, similarly, they don't actually break it out, but on our math, last year they lost $4.5 billion on their North America EV business, and that was on a business that X strike would have been $14 billion. So what it tells you is X the EV losses, it would have been closer to $18+ billion of profit.
The popularity of EV leasing is particularly noteworthy because many people argue it isn't always the smartest financial decision. On the one hand, leasing offers lower payments and interest rates compared to financing a vehicle, but you don't actually own the car you're paying for, and you're covering the cost when it is depreciating the fastest. Vehicles typically lose about 40% to 50% of their value in the first 3 years of ownership, meaning that a lessee is essentially paying for all that depreciation only to return the car when it's near the bottom of its depreciation curve. Some financial advisors suggest that the most economically sound move in the long run is to buy a car and drive it until it's no longer worth repairing. 2 back-to-back 3-year leases will usually cost more than purchasing a car outright, as vehicles can last a long time. The average age of the American car fleet is nearly 13 years. However, for the EV segment, the benefits for consumers, combined with the automakers' pressing need to move inventory, are currently outweighing these potential downsides.
We've gone from an environment that was EV euphoria to an EV winter. Like I said, EV euphoria was unlimited demand, capital markets willing to absorb losses, etc. We're in an EV winter today. Demand is facing a reset. And clearly there is some challenge in pivoting from the early adopters to the early majority.
The real question is, how long can it last?
Maybe in a year you'll still get a decent EV lease, but 2 years from now, 3 years from now, debatable.